I'm Stephen C. Miller, and this is Scream Dreams. We went to, because we literally, we were like, what, we want to get married. And she was like, let's just go to Vegas. And I go, oh my God, I love you.
Is that what
so we just went to Vegas.
You went to Vegas too? I never heard of Vegas.
Oh, nice.
So we did that.
Like a little chapel? Or?
Yeah, with Elvis.
Elvis?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. We got married.
Hello, friends.
I'm James A. Janisse.
I'm Catherine Corcoran.
And I'm Barbara Crampton.
Welcome.
Welcome to another episode of Scream Dreams.
Scream Dreams.
Our guest today is an incredible filmmaker who's done a ton of awesome action movies featuring some of the biggest action stars.
He's an editor, director, producer, gamer.
He might be playing Halo right now.
He does it all.
His latest film, Werewolves, is his biggest release yet.
Oh!
His film Werewolves will be in theaters December 6th.
Please welcome our very special guest,
Our very special guest,
Please welcome our very special guest,
Stephen C. Miller.
Stephen C. Miller.
Stephen C. Miller.
Okay, we are joined by Stephen C. Miller.
Yay.
Oh my God. And Stephen, I've known of you and we've been friends on social media for like 10 years
Feels
or
like a
more.
long time.
And we actually have worked together, but not completely connected.
Right.
But I only just met you at a screening of something you went to with your daughter maybe a few months ago.
It was, I think it was an Ice Nine Kills event.
It was.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
do you know what we went to. I don't know them personally. I just
Those are homies.
They're good people
Yeah.
that do cool shit. So that's where we met in person. I was
Yeah.
there with my daughter. She got
She's
to meet
great.
you. She was like, oh my God. So that was awesome. Yeah, we actually met through online because I was cutting trailers for your movies.
You were cutting trailers for which movies? I know We Are Still Here.
We're Still Here. And then there was another one that I did for you.
Did you do Your Next? No.
No, I didn't do Your Next. There's another one. I can't remember. But I know I did another movie for you. But yeah, that's how we initially met because you were like, oh, you did the trailers. And I was like, yeah, that's me.
Yeah.
So do you have a trailer editing background?
No, but kind of. So when I first got to LA and after I sold my first film, of course, to get the next one was how do you do it? And so every meeting I was in, this is 2012, and people really weren't doing what were called ripomatics at that point. So basically,
Ripomatic.
yeah. So basically, I would take 100 different trailers and cut them into one trailer for one movie based on the script I was pitching for. So if they gave me a script, I would take all the trailers, cut them together, and say, this is the movie that I think it could be, right?
From different movies?
From different movies
Okay, yeah.
to make it one. In fact, one Paramount exec was like, oh my God, how did you get Brad Pitt in your short? And I was like, no, that's from Seven, bro.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? You just didn't recognize because the trailer was put together so great that they were like, oh my God, what is this? But that's how it started. And then studios just kept hitting me up going, hey, your little pitch videos are better than some of our trailers. Can you fix the trailers? And so I started doing small trailer ghosting campaigns for studios until eventually I just was doing them all the time. And we just decided to open up our own boutique trailer house. And we did that in starting 2020.
With somebody else, you and who?
Just me and my wife.
Oh, just you and your wife?
Yeah, that's it. We do it.
Cool.
We do it out of the house. We have a back studio that we do it out of. So it's just me and her cutting trailers all the time now.
Wow.
And she does all the graphic design for them. So all the cards and all that kind of stuff, I don't really handle. She does, but trailer cutting, I do. In fact, my daughter gets in there sometimes and cuts some stuff. She's really proficient, weirdly enough, on Final Cut. So we'll have.
Oh, you use Final Cut?
Yeah, we use Final. I use Final Cut for trailers.
Okay.
Specifically because it's just so easy to maneuver around.
Sure.
But yeah, sometimes we have little battles. I'll cut a trailer and then she'll cut a trailer of her own for the same movie.
And see how it
And
cuts.
we'll see who.
Hers ever been
Hers are
good?
always better. So that's inevitable that hers are better.
Is she going to work in the business?
I think so. I think she has a real eye for behind the scenes things like editing and writing, and she's really great at that. And so she's only 14. So the fact that she can pick up that stuff so quickly and really understand sort of the lay of the land and how things cut is kind of really cool to watch. As a dad, it's pretty cool to see.
I think I was around that age when I pirated some editing software, Sony Vegas and early Final Cut Pro, and was learning.
Yeah,
how to do that.
if they can get their hands on it, somehow they just master it.
Yeah.
Especially technology now. My 10-year-old son knows how to do things better than I do, but that's it.
Because you come from the trailer, the editing and the trailer background, when you're making your own films, do you think about it from a marketing perspective? You were talking about having the monster.
Think of the trailer moments.
Yeah.
I actually have trailer moments set to be shot before we even get there.
Cool.
So we have 4 or 5 different shots that I know for sure are set up to be trailer shots. They might not even make it into the movie, but I know for a fact that they'll be trailer shots. There's a shot there's a trailer shot from we did Escape Plan with Stallone where I literally just pushed in and had him say, I think Batista says, hey, how does it feel to be back? And Sly says, feels good to be back. And that was only shot for the trailer, right? I just knew that kind of a line.
And then do people ever tell you, hey, that wasn't in the movie afterwards? They go, no.
I don't think anybody really remembers by the time, maybe, but like no one's actually said that. But yeah, we do think about that beforehand. I think the editing goes into how I make these movies so fast anyway.
Well, we were talking to somebody else about putting together pitch decks and things like that. How did you come up with this rip-a-rama or what you're calling it? like because when you're trying to sell things, that is a big part of it. Like, what are you going to show people?
Yeah, I learned pretty quickly that when I was in these execs' offices, they really couldn't visualize anything. Yeah. Like, didn't matter if I brought in whatever pitch book, whatever. They were just looking at it and like turning pages looked like zombies, right? And usually zoning out as I was talking to them. So I felt like I really needed something visual, more visual medium for them to really grab a hold of it. And so I tried the Rip-O-Matic thing and it was such a big success the first time I did it that, I mean, literally like it was the one where like, how'd you get Brad Pitt in it? And I was like, no, it's not. Yeah. And they gravitated it so quickly that I realized this is something that I should be doing.
So did other people copy that? And
I just started telling people I was doing it. Like, people would ask me, how are you getting into these meetings? How, like, I was meeting with like guys like Wes Craven and showing them like Rip-O-Matics to try to get Last House on the Left at the time. And like, but Wes was walking out talking about my Rip-O-Matic and I'm like, oh shit, I did something right. And so I'd have guys calling me saying, hey, Wes was talking about your Rip-O-Matic. Like, can you cut one for me? And so I started cutting for other filmmakers.
Just for their pitches?
Just for their pitches.
Oh, cool.
And so I would sit down with filmmakers. We would talk about what they liked. We'd talk about movies they liked. Then I would just basically go through a database of trailers.
Do they find that there's like a high success rate with your like?
Yeah. I was finding people were getting movies left and right.
That's amazing.
So, maybe not me, but they were getting some great movies. Like, and so, but it was cool. I just found that it was like something for me, creative outlet. Yeah. Because, directing movies is one thing, but being able to chop up a whole bunch of things to make something else is a whole nother creative outlet.
I love learning about these little jobs or like these lesser thought of jobs that are still in the industry. It makes me think of storyboard artists who that's a job that a lot of people outside of film don't even know exists. Right. But it's such a creative job and can be really fulfilling if your talent lies in illustration and drawing. And it can have such an influence on the look and feel of the final product because you're working with the director on how to get a certain vision across. And I've seen some amazing storyboard artists who like really inform the final work. And it's just so funny to me that that's a viable, fulfilling job that 99% of the people have no idea exists.
And that's really where it started for me too, is I would have storyboard artists doing these things and to try to get full scenes became so I couldn't do it affordably to do it for me, right? Because you got to pay these artists, right? I was not someone that was going to artists going, hey, can you do this for free for me? And then, if the movie happens, I'll get you to do the movie. Like, I just wasn't that guy. So it really became about how can I do it myself? How can I create a visual storyboard?
Because are you not talented when it comes to like drawing?
Yeah, drawing, no. I'm terrible. I'm awful at it. Like, I've tried and it just looks terrible. So like, it just became like, how can I visually tell something that, any studio exec could look at and go, okay, we get it. We get the tone, we get the vibe. We even get the look because I would try to color correct it, whatever. Yeah. So they would automatically understand what I was trying to make.
That gives me a lot of hope because I am also someone who just any kind of tactile artistry I am hopeless at, whether it's like crafting or drawing, anything that involves my actual hands doing something in the physical realm, I'm hopeless at. But I'm good at like digital creation and editing and stuff. And I've always wondered if directing is outside of my realm of possibilities just because I can't draw.
No, I mean, I talk to so many indie filmmakers or even first-time film students that are trying to get into filmmaking. I talk to them all the time. And that is a lot of their questions is like, do I need to know how to draw? Do I need to know how to put art together? I'm like, no, you just need to have a computer and understand that you can tell a story in any way possible with all kinds of images, whether it's trailers or clips from movies or whatever it is, whatever you can pull together. I mean, I was even using other storyboards that I was finding from other movies on searching online, right? And I would find the storyboard, then I would cut them up and try to animate them and do things like that.
I think like a lot of also like the best directors know how to outsource and how to delegate. Like that's such a hard thing to figure out what to do. But just knowing like it's okay, you're not perfect at everything.
Well, that's what Quentin Tarantino says. He says you don't need to, there's something, we can search it up online. I'll show you after. But he says, you don't need to know how to do everything. You just need to know how to find the best people to help you do these things.
That's 100% right. People ask me all the time, do you write your movies? I'm like, well, I did the first one, but I sucked at it. So like, it's better for me to find people that do things better than me and allow them to do that, do their art great, right? And then I'll take that art and figure out how to maneuver it into what I see and need to be done. That's not 90% of my job.
Well,
how did you start?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
You know,
in the
like
business.
I started, so I was in the skate scene pretty heavily. So I skated a lot.
Yeah.
So I was doing a lot of skate videos growing up.
Cool.
Like in high school.
Cool. I hung out with a lot of surf and skate
That's
filmmakers
just
for a
what I
long time.
did. Like, it's just my brothers were skating. My brothers were in bands. So like, I was kind of with them all the time. Like, even though they were younger than me, I was the one that was filming. And so we always had that going on. But again, like I just knew that I knew how to edit and that felt like the right place for me. So I was kind of felt like editing was my thing. And so I was trying to focus on editing. Even when I went to film school, you know, editing was what I wanted to focus on. You know, film school is kind of funny though too.
Where'd you go?
I went to Full Sail. Do you know Full Sail University?
Yeah. One of my best friends who is actually also a
Florida.
Yeah, he is actually a trailer editor.
Yeah,
he went to Full Sail.
Really?
Yeah.
Full Sail's a really interesting school, right? It's not a theory school. And I wasn't interested in theory because I felt like I knew the theory. I'd watched enough movies behind the scenes. That's where I got my theory, right? Felt like I got movies. I needed to understand the gear. Like, how do I make movies? How does everyone make movies, right? And Full Sail is really cool about, they have all of the gear. That's what they focus on. It's all gear related. If you want to be a grip, electric, camera operator, editor, director is in there, but like really it's about the gear, right? And so I remember my first week there, you're in film school and it's the classic film school scenario is like everyone has a really good mustache and or like the round glasses and like they're really talented artistic guys, right? And I think everyone's question at the opening day was like, what movies do you want to make? And everyone's response was like, it was like The Requiem for a Dreams, My Own Private Idaho, Basketball Diaries, Tarantino,
Kevin Smith.
Right? It was those movies, right? And then it got to me and I was like, you know, I just want to make Bad Boys. You know?
God.
If the collective gasp of like, oh my God, this guy, you know? And I think that was when I really understood that like, okay, I'm in my own kind of thing of how I want to make movies. And I kind of had to lean into that.
Yeah.
And so that's when I decided, hey, I'm just going to make my own thing. And because I had all the gear there. So I did. I used all the school's gear. And I used every film student I could get. I had like $5,000 left in student loans. Don't tell anybody. But like I used those student loans to make my first movie, which was a Called Automaton Transfusion. And I drove it out here to LA. I spent 2 years in my car
Living in your car?
Living in my car.
Yeah.
For 2 years.
2 years. I slept in all around streets. I used the Y to shower, all kinds of crazy shit.
And that's so long.
That was long. And I made a lot of friends to try to get on their couches and those kind of things. But like, so I was trying to finish the movie here because I had only shot it and I had to edit it in my car. And then I was on Craigslist trying to get people to do things for me, like Jamie Scott, who was working on Gears of War at the time as composing Gears of War. Wow. And he was looking, I think he was looking for like a PA or something on Craigslist. And he came across my post and was like, can I check out the movie? Let me just see it. Yeah. And he watched it and he was like, okay, I'll score the movie. I'll sound design the movie. But I just need to do it on the weekends, which is what took so long for the movie to really get done because I had to work around everybody else's time. And the movie got done that way. And then we were able to, crazy enough, to get it in front of people like Sam Raimi, who watched the movie, who loved the movie, who then championed the movie. And then there was getting it over to Dimension Films. Dimension Films is like, hey, we're going to buy it. And I was like, great. And I thought, oh, we'll do the El Mariachi thing. They'll buy it. They'll make something bigger for it. We'll make a bigger movie. They're like, no, we just want to put it out. And I'm like, well, no, this is terrible. You can't put this out. It's like a student film. Like it was a student movie.
You were like 20 at the time.
Yeah, I was 22, 23. And like just got out. This is 2007. And I just got here 2 years into it, right? And so, but Dimension bought the movie. Dimension I don't know if you remember the line Dimension Extreme, but they launched my Dimension Extreme with my movie, which was crazy. Yeah. So for a brief moment of that end of Blockbuster, I was able to go to Blockbuster and there was my movie with like a cardboard cutout of a zombie, like reaching up to grab movies, which was totally insane. But that's how I got out here. And then it was just like it was a weird time of like, you become the guy where everybody's like I was saying, I was going to all these. What year was this? 2007.
Okay.
So 2007 to 2009, 10 was really weird because you become the guy. They're like, oh, you need to go to this meeting, be in all of these pitches. You're up for all of these movies. And 3 years into it, I did. I got UTA, was an agent. I still same agent manager as I did then.
Wow.
But 3 years of pitching, 3 years of development, 3 years of studio movies that I had and was attached to. It just seemed like nothing was happening.
Wow, that's a familiar story.
And you're just 3 years in going, I'm only as good as my last movie, and that was 3 years
Were you still in your
ago.
car though? What were you?
No, luckily I was not in my car.
was, like, very
Luckily Dimension buying the movie. I mean,
Did they give you
sure that
enough
changed
to get an
some things.
apartment?
they got me enough to get an apartment, right? But by 2010, it was kind of like fumes, right?
Yeah,
like
sure.
3 years into it, it's kind of like you're going on fumes, and you're like, okay, what do I do now? And it was, oh shit, I got to start all over again because it just felt like that, and so that's what I did.
Well, it makes so much sense to me though, because like that you say like you wanted to make Bad Boys and you were like very action driven in how you motivated yourself, and like coming from like the surf and skate filmmaking community, I spent a lot of time with the Momentum guys, so like Taylor Steele and Kelly Slater and those guys, and like learning how they kind of came up was like such an interesting way. Taylor actually slept in his in a van while he was like filming the Momentum guys and like making the whole what became, this is such a niche thing that like a lot of people don't know about, but like that is like iconic in the surf. The Momentum generation is so iconic in the surf and skate filmmaking community. It's what like combined punk music and surf and skating and actually made the whole like extreme sports a thing was Taylor Steele and his camera, like with these giant waves, just kind of like jerry-rigging things and like capturing stuff. And a lot of it was just like seat of your pants because you've got these waves that can actually kill you. Like they're that big. And you just have to kind of go with it and like take the risk and keep moving. It makes so much sense to me that like you would come from that extreme sports background and like want to make action films.
And it was the same. It was the same thing. You're just like sleeping in vans anyway when you're on tour. So it felt like I was just on tour.
So after nothing happened for those 3 years, you probably decided you wanted to make your own movie at that point, like an indie movie, another indie movie.
Then it was back to the drawing board of like I met enough people, right, to hang out and understand what people were making
and how the town worked.
How the town worked, and I got that gist of it, right? So I got that down. But I met a guy named Travis Stevens.
Yeah,
and
my
Travis was making.
I got so excited all of a sudden
because Travis is great, right? Travis is great. He had a little movie called The Aggression Scale.
That was the one I was going to say because that's the first movie of yours that introduced me to you that I went, wow, this is really great. Yeah, and so that was at that time.
That was that time. It was 2011 when we started to go. He was like, hey, I'm going to go make this movie. Upstate New York. It's called The Aggression Scale. It's like basically Home Alone rated R. And I was like, yeah, that's right up my fucking alley. Let's go. So we did. We went and made the movie. And if you know Travis, we made these movie for zero money. Nothing. It was like 12 days, no money. But the movie turned out really fun and turned out really great.
It's really good.
It premiered at South by Southwest. It did really great work for me. And so
you were back.
I felt like I was back. I'm back, yeah. And but that did really catapult me back into just consistent work because at that point I decided I wasn't going to wait. I know most filmmakers are like, I got to wait for my perfect movie. I'm only going to do this one script, and they get stuck.
They get stuck, and then they don't work for years and years.
And I just decided I'm going to make fucking movies, and whatever comes at me, I'm just going to say yes.
Is that what like pushed you into the action sphere with like the films you did with Stallone and Bruce Willis and like
totally. It's what motivated everything at that point because Aggression Scale was a mix of action, horror, and then I did Silent Night, which is a reboot of Silent Night, Deadly Night.
Oh, you did Silent Night?
Yeah.
No shit.
Yeah.
Oh my God. I love Silent Night. I think it's one of the best. I think it's one of the best remakes of like slashes of that wave because that was 2012, right?
Yeah, it was 2012. That's my baby. So that movie was also supposed to be a big theatrical release, and I don't know if you remember at the time, but at the time there was an actual Santa killer that was happening in real life.
Oh no.
And so the movie got pushed down.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Because that was happening at the same time as the movie was supposed to go theatrical. And so that was another whole
they hadn't seen Terrifier.
They hadn't seen Terrifier. But
it's a killer.
It's so gory and it's great.
That's my baby. We worked on that movie for a long time. A lot of people don't know James Wan originally was producing that movie with me.
Oh, wow.
He dropped out once, I don't know, midway through, but at one point James was on it. We had a really fun take. It was a little bit of a different take than the movie you saw, but like we had a really fun supernatural take to it. And then that didn't pan out, but we eventually made Silent Night. And that movie was a big hit. Like people loved it. It was kind of off to the races from there, but then it was Lionsgate coming to me to talk about action movies. And because I'd kind of been pushing that for a minute with everybody that I wanted to get there. And so they were like, look, there's these movies. you can try and see if you like it. And that was my introduction to Extraction, Marauders, First Kill with Bruce.
Well, I think that's the other thing that a lot of people don't realize. Like, just like there is in horror, there's like the giant budgets and then there's like these indie budget films. Action is a really similar market where it has these like giant, you have your bad boys, you have your like giant blockbusters. And then you also have these like kind of indie, scrappier action films where there's like a whole, it has its own roster of like celebrity talent. Yeah. They do phenomenally well internationally.
Like The Raid.
It's all foreign sales driven, right? Like things like that. And honestly, I didn't know that they were geezer teasers. I guess that's what they're called. When like I first started, this was 2000.
I have never heard that term.
I've never heard
geezer.
that term.
Yeah, explain that. Explain that.
It's sort of like the idea that you have Bruce or whoever in the movie for like, he's only there for a day.
A day.
But
because that's all you can afford.
He's in there for 20 minutes. So like the mandate was 20 minutes of Bruce in the movie.
But it's a similar like thing with horror where it's like once you get to level, you like do these cameos in this thing and they throw you all over the film.
Yeah, and you're advertised like
as you're the lead,
but
you're not the lead, right? And so I didn't know that, right? I was brought into it going, I'm making a movie with Bruce Willis. This is fucking awesome. This is John McClane. Hell yeah, dude. And I get there like to prep and they're like, oh, no. He's only here for a day. And I was like, what? He's got like 30 pages of movie. Like, how do you get him in a day? And they're like, well, you got to figure that out. And so,
how do you figure that out? I mean, multiple cameras?
I don't know. I think I cried for like an hour. Like, how do I figure this out? You know, how do I do this?
I don't want to do it.
So it was a nightmare. But it ultimately was a lot of fun. Like, I mean, because they were also like, hey, you'll meet Bruce. I was like, can I meet him yet? And they're like, no, you'll meet him on the day, which is also another gigantic thing. Right. Yeah. So it was like meeting him on the day. You got 30 pages to do with him that day. Right. And then trying to explain to him that you're also going to be, because remember, Bruce is still Bruce. He doesn't have any health issues at this point. Right. This is Bruce. I'm talking to Bruce, right? He's there. And so me and him had a quick conversation about how we were going to do it because I'd planned the whole day basically being able to walk him from set to set to set. That's how I designed it. It was basically all built. And I would just walk him from set to set to set, and any action we would do as it happened. Yeah. And even I would film him as I was driving him from one set to the other. I would just be filming just in case I wanted to use it in different scenes or anything I needed, right?
So he's in character.
He's in character the whole time, like basically on a whole day of character, right? And so
But how do you physically film 30 pages? I mean,
you do all of Bruce's coverage, and that's it.
And then you use everybody else.
So then I come back.
So you recreate it later.
So then I come back for 3 weeks and shoot all the stuff without Bruce.
That makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah,
so
that's got to be so madness.
You're never shooting, so you just got to think about the trying to understand how that's going to cut together, right?
But that's where having the background works really well for stuff like that.
That's why when they first talked to me, they didn't really understand what I was going to do, and then when I did it, I fucked myself because then I did it. Right?
Yeah, and they're like, you can do this.
You can do it.
You can do it.
Now you get Sam Jackson for half a day.
Yeah,
and that's exactly right. And not only that, Bruce loves you. Right. There was another whole aspect of it, which was a lot of filmmakers will say Bruce was hard or difficult at the time. In fact, I went through a whole thing where everybody's like, he's going to be difficult. This will be hard. No.
Jenna, Cannell, and I say he's our favorite final girl.
Yeah.
Me and Bruce had a blast. We hit it off. We had a really good time. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was me telling him to shut up a couple times or like, not dealing with anything, like just moving on. Right. And like but he loved it. He was like into it. And I think it was because he didn't stop moving. I never let Bruce sit. I never let him stop moving. I just said, we're just going to keep going, Bruce. We'll shoot this. We'll keep going. Yeah, he'd take a breather or two, but he never went back to his trailer.
Yeah.
He never had time to just kind of think about being on a set. He was just constantly in motion with me.
But let me ask you, because, he has to work so hard just for one day. And I understand that they're really expensive. But on a very much smaller scale, people ask me, oh, would you be in my movie? And you only have to do one day.
Right.
And I look at the material and I go, well, I don't know, you got me in 20 pages and I kind of want to make sure that I'm doing a good job for you. So I'd rather you film me for more days. What is that like for an actor of his caliber? Does he ever feel like, oh, I don't have enough time to, do the magic that I want to do?
But Bruce could just turn it on. Like he would just turn it on and I was just like, okay, it's good. I mean, so it also comes down to timing, right? So I would time out how long I thought it would take Bruce to say his lines. So I knew how long it would take him to say any given line and how many takes I could get out of that, right? So I would time out his entire day based on takes. So I knew that I could only get 3 takes out of this scene or I had to move on, or I would lose my day, right? So I would then design to try to push him in those 3 takes.
That's so much organization.
But I think like actors like that are like action actors, like we're all, those of us who have stunt backgrounds and are action actors have this like kind of understanding of timing in a way that like you can't experience unless you do it basically because and so once you understand that that's how we operate, you're able to like work around
and that's
it.
how he was.
Not a lot of dialogue. It's more action oriented.
Well, no, he had a lot of dialogue.
He did?
Yeah, he was dialogue heavy for something.
Really?
For the first 2 movies that I did with him, he was dialogue heavy. The third movie, which was First Kill, was the first movie I felt like something wasn't quite right. Like we would have like we're having a conversation and things weren't getting remembered, or like it's different like when Bruce can't remember 30 pages of dialogue. That's different. Like and we have to help him with that. But like when you get there and he's like introducing himself to me, I was like, oh no, something's wrong.
And what year was that?
This was 2017.
Okay.
And so that's when I was like, okay, guys, I'm done. Right. Like I couldn't do that anymore. It was a big thing for me.
Did you know what was going on?
They had kind of taught me kind of, and that's when I was like, yeah, I feel like now I'm exploiling the guy. So I'm not going to do that. So because
I
the
think
first
he was
2
doing it to make some extra
yeah,
money.
I'm sure. And we
Yeah.
never really talked about it like that. We honestly I'll be completely honest. We just talked about life. Like and that's sort of like how I deal with most of my actors that are like this, like Nick Cage's or Stallone or any of these guys. Like I always went into it first and foremost, we just hung out.
Yeah.
Like I never was that guy that was going in with like, oh my God, this is my vision. We're gonna talk about the movie. Like I just didn't do that. And I think that's because
Probably good with these guys.
Yeah, with them it would help because they were I'm not a tool. You know what I mean? Like I'm not trying to come in and tell them what they've already been doing for 30 years.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh my God.
They know what they want to do.
They know what they want to do, and I understand
Yes,
that.
I have a friend that directed Samuel Jackson in a film, and he gave him some direction, and Sam said, hey man, you don't even need to tell me that because I just do my thing.
Yeah,
It's like if you're hiring these guys, you're hiring what they do.
When you hire Nick Cage,
Yeah.
you're hiring Nick Cage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right? Like I don't
if you don't want that, don't hire.
I don't need Nick Cage to do anything other than be Nick Cage.
Yeah.
And that's what me and Nick talked about. In fact, like when I first met Nick, like he flew me into Vegas and we're sitting there and I knew Nick liked tattoos, right? And I have tattoos. But I went in with a full-on tank top. Right? Like I came in with a full-on tank top. And as soon as I walked in, Nick stood up from the other side of the room, was like, whoa. And like all we did was talk about tattoos for like the first hour.
Yeah.
But
Wait, is he tatted up?
he does have some, yeah.
Okay.
But what that did was it makes him feel comfortable with
Yeah.
me, right?
Yeah.
And like my 90% of my job is to make you guys feel
I
comfortable,
think that's
right? And to make
right
them
on,
feel
yeah.
at home with me,
Especially
and like
when you're doing
peace
stuff
and
like this, like
where they
that's
have to be
kind-
so busy.
They have to be so busy. There's so, and again, with action films, there's so much technical things. I think we also, it's so important to me, and I'm sure it is to a lot of the actors you work with, that we differentiate. Action actors are actors who are stunt trained. They're classic actors and they're stunt trained and they do their own stunts.
Right.
So like I am an action actor. Jenna Cannell from Terrifier. Well, actually, I'll clarify. I'm an action actor because that's what I do. I don't double.
Right.
Jenna Cannell, however, from Terrifier is a stunt performer and an action actor because she doubles.
Right.
If you don't double, you are not a stunt performer. And it's a big thing in the action world. A lot of times in the horror world, people will say, oh, I do stunts or I'm a stunt performer. That's BS. You're not. And it's very
I
offensive.
did that in Chopping Mall.
But you were what's called an action actor.
I think it was a stunt. Maybe
But no,
back
you
then
did.
it was
but,
a stunt.
but you did do stunts. So here's the thing: like when I do stunts, I'm doing stunts, but I'm not pretending I'm Barbara Crampton,
Right.
like acting as Barbara Crampton, like subbing in as a stunt. I'm doing it as myself. Anybody who says that they're a stunt performer but isn't doubling is not a stunt performer. That's not true. And you're not, and it's very offensive to a lot of the people who work in this field when people say that, because there's so much extra training that goes in. Like, and even to say you're an action actor, like you have to go through the stunt and safety training. Martial arts, not action acting. It makes me very angry actually, because
Well,
like
the safety part of it's a big deal too.
right? Faking a punch and throwing a punch, two different things.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
no, it
like,
is. And we would go through that all the time on set. And in fact, that was some of the hardest parts of it, was trying to make sure all of that was working in that short amount of time.
Yeah.
And making sure everybody's safe in that short amount of time, which is like very difficult.
Yeah.
And so it always helped when you had your action actors on set who understood both things, right?
Yeah.
And understood how to do that.
So who was your favorite action actor to work with?
Oh man, my favorite action actor. I'm gonna have to say Simon Rhee. And Simon Rhee, that's because I don't know if you guys have ever seen Best of the Best, but Simon Rhee was one of the bad guys in Best of the Best, and he is just phenomenal. Like he was just so good with what he did, action wise, but talented actor. Understood where he needed to be at all times, and understood the action, which is really crucial when you have him against a Bruce Willis or a Nick Cage, that they understand like how to deal with the actor, right? And how to get them through the scene, which is hard in these kind of movies, is getting them through these action scenes that they don't have time. To rehearse.
You have to be, that's why it's so important. Like, it's just important, I think, to me, but to a lot of people to talk about this, because like when you actually don't have that training, you're doing the entire production a disservice because you can't move that quickly and you don't understand what's happening around you. And not only is it dangerous, but like it slows down the day.
Oh man, and slowing down the day is the death of my movies, right?
Yeah,
like, so like, I mean, the most days I've ever had is 25 days to make a movie, and that was Werewolves. But like,
I was going to ask.
But that's the most time I've ever had.
That's a lot.
Yeah, no, I mean, most of my
today.
movies, that's the most I've had in, I mean, most of them are 18 and under,
Yeah.
right? So all of the Bruce movies are 16 days.
That's crazy.
So,
to
Well,
me.
that's what I mean. So we talk about this like in horror. It's so wild to me. Like,
It's
so
hard to
impressive.
make a good movie.
Well,
You don't
because
have enough time.
we talk about this in horror, and we're like, oh my god, we only had in the indie horror, we only had 10 days. We only had like 15 days. But in most indie horror, like our big stunt heavy days, there's only like a handful of those. Those aren't every day. In an action film, that's every single freaking day.
We would have every day. Well, what we would do is, what I would normally do is I would schedule the action days first. So I would know how long the action days were going to take, and then I would back the talkie into the part of this, into the days that we had left, right? So I would try to make sure that I was safety, could get the stunts done right, that everything worked.
You don't want to be rushing that.
Don't want to be rushing the things that people can die on.
Exactly.
Right? And so that's how I always did it. It was like, and I was also just not a big fan of company moves.
Yeah.
I hate company moves actually.
Yeah.
So I don't do them. So when I get
You
to a
shoot
place,
mostly in one location?
we shoot in one area. So when I get to a place, a city, my first rule is I will travel out. I will find one location that I love, and then I'll put a pin in it, and I'll draw a circle around it and only go less than half a mile outside that circle.
You know what?
Whoa.
I
And so-
never heard that before.
and so
That's
I
a
will-
really good.
So I will find whatever
Thought,
location
yeah.
we need in that half a mile radius, right? So my company never moves. So everything is shuttled out on whatever from base camp. But that is a big rule of mine. I don't do anything else. I don't travel outside of that. I don't make the
that
crew
saves you a
go
lot of time.
miles. And
But are you shooting out of LA a lot?
No.
For the tax credit.
Yeah, where
and
do
everything
you
like that?
typically? Do you shoot in Europe or Eastern Europe?
We don't shoot in Eastern Europe. We've shot in Atlanta a lot. It's Mississippi. It's Alabama.
I've shot in Mississippi.
Cincinnati, Ohio.
Since Ohio's pretty
I've
good.
heard Kentucky is
Kentucky's
actually
a big one right now.
Yeah.
We haven't shot there, but Cincinnati's so close to Kentucky. It's
it's like,
It's right there.
obviously in Canada. Puerto Rico is where we shot Werewolves.
Yeah. Puerto Rico. Wow.
So there's some good
that
places.
Makes sense.
So
I was wondering where
I
it
want
was.
to talk about werewolves.
Yeah.
Sure.
It was so cool. It was like watching a video game.
Oh my God, it is a total video.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's what it felt like. I was
Yeah.
like, this guy's action, like I could see it in how you were moving the camera. The
Right.
inserts of like the close-ups of the face behind the mask. I was like, I'm in a video game right
Yeah.
now. It was moving.
Yeah, that was sort of like how it was pitched to me, to be honest. When we first got it, it was like, we found the script and they were like, Purge with werewolves. And I was like, yeah, that's a great
How I
comp.
summarized it.
It's a great
Right,
comp,
yeah.
right? And then once we got Frank, I was like, Frank Grillo versus werewolves.
And had you worked with Frank
Frank
before?
Grillo is so good. in
Never
that.
worked with Frank before. But
Okay.
everyone around me has worked with Frank
I know.
before, right?
Yeah.
And so everyone was, giving me their Frank stories and telling me that Frank's this and fun to work with. And so Frank kind of knew me. And so it was really just us meeting. And so he already liked the script. Again, that's always what's cool too, is like once they like the script, I'm not really trying to go in and do too much. I just need them to understand that I'm going to make something cool.
And was it being pitched as Purge with Werewolves before you got Frank?
That was the pitch before I got Frank. So when I went to
That's
Frank,
so funny because I was saying that to him. I was like,
Yeah.
it's like the Purge with werewolves.
Yeah, and that's-
And Frank's in two
and
of
I
the
just said,
best Purge movies.
He is. And I said,
Yeah.
Frank, just imagine if this is like where the Purge leaves off, but werewolves, you just add them to the mix. And he was like, bro, I'm in. Let's do it. And he was like, I love werewolves, but how are we going to pull? That was the biggest question mark. How do we pull off these werewolves? And I was like, look, we're going to try to go as much practical, 90% practical. Everything we can do, we're going to throw at the suits. Whatever money we're going to throw at the suits. So I need you to go easy on us.
I know, right?
And Frank came in. He was really
Because
great.
he has his number.
He has his number like they do, right? And so it was, but this is a Frank movie. So this isn't like Frank was there for a day.
Yeah.
This is Frank there all
He's gotta be
25
there.
days, right?
Wow. Yeah.
And
He's
he
in
committed
almost
to
every
that.
shot.
He's there. He's in the movie. He's invested.
Yeah.
He's invested in the movie.
Yeah.
And so he was fantastic once we got the Wolves, and we got Alec Gillis on, who did Pumpkinhead.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean,
yeah.
he's an
Yeah.
amazing guy.
Yeah.
And so the
He
suits,
just
he did the
presented
suits.
at the Fangoria Chainsaw Awards, right? Alongside Dane.
I'm sure he was.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah,
Was he there?
that makes
Alec
sense.
was there?
Yeah.
I didn't watch the awards.
Oh, weren't you in them?
I was supposed to be,
Was the award
Oh.
for
but I
Frank?
went out of town.
No, because it was
And
this
then
year.
I
this
said,
year.
I'll do it remote. Let me do a thing. And they went, we'll call you, Barbara. No, they never called me. So I've done them a couple years in a row and I didn't get to do them. I didn't
Double
watch.
dig
That's
right
wild.
there.
I
Wow.
wasn't mad. I just didn't watch.
Well,
Wow.
So
Chelsea
She's like,
and I
I'm
got
not
to
in
be
it,
in it.
so
I've
I
never
don't
been
watch.
either.
Yeah,
But
we did it.
you've never been in? Okay,
No.
we're
we're
let's
gonna
make a pact.
campaign for this after
campaigning
Werewolf.
Next
for
year.
Werewolves.
Next year we'll do it
And I
together.
did Silent Night and didn't even get Chainsaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're
Right.
campaigning. Honestly, it's such a fun movie. Like
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
wasn't. I kind of went in blind, and I
Right.
was like, I feel like I'm watching an action film. I love action films, so I was
Yeah.
like, I feel like I'm watching an action film. And then I was like, wait, and
I
I'm
know.
watching a horror. It was
It was a perfect combination and it was edited spectacularly.
Oh, thank you. That's me
Come
and Greg.
on.
Greg McLennan, who's a really
Oh my God,
fantastic
Greg?
editor. You know Greg? Yes, you know
Yes,
Greg. So Greg
do.
McLennan's a great editor,
Yeah.
and he lives in Austin. And we remotely cut this movie, and he did a great job. And then I kind of messed up his edit, and then he came back in. so
Does he do a lot of action too?
he doesn't
or-
do a lot of. He's literally only done 3 features, and they've been mine. So I found him in the trailer editing world.
Yeah.
And so he's done more now, but like he was a big trailer editor, and I loved it. And I was like, dude, you need to do feature work. And so hired him to do
nice,
feature
yeah.
work for me.
What other
and
movies did he do
He
with
did
you?
Margot, and also it's 2, Margot and Werewolves. But
Were you
he's
always
great.
interested in the idea of a creature feature? I know you always
Yeah.
wanted to do the action, but like,
Werewolves specifically. I've been trying to
Yeah.
do werewolves since I got here.
I have
So
a werewolf film too that I've had for 10 years.
I love werewolves.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite werewolf
So
movies?
my favorite werewolf movie is The Howling.
Okay.
Yeah.
The Howling's my jam. Like I could watch that on repeat. American Werewolf in London, of course. Ginger Snaps, I love.
Nice.
Dog Soldiers, I love.
Yeah.
Those are sort of my top.
Yeah, when you were
werewolves.
describing werewolves, it reminded me of The Sound of Dog Soldiers. I haven't
Yeah,
seen
totally.
that yet.
Dog
but-
Soldiers is a comp for sure
Yeah.
because it's got the action.
Yeah.
It shows the wolves. It's
And
not
the wolves
really
kind
trying
of
to.
look similar, like
yeah, I was
larger
thinking
and
about
tall.
that. This isn't a spoiler. They're in the trailers.
Yeah.
Like you
Yeah.
lead with the monster.
Mm-hmm.
Like, how did you decide what you wanted them to look like?
It was pretty early on that we just knew that I needed them to be brooding. I needed them to
Yeah.
be dark. I needed them to be scary. Like I
They're
understood.
very humanoid.
They're
Like
humanoid,
they're on.
and I
two
felt
legs.
like we've seen the werewolf movie recently as like it's some kind of sparkling wolf or something crazy, which is fine. Like there's a slow burn where we get a werewolf that turns and maybe it's a more wolf than human
yeah.
wolf, and so I don't know. I felt like now I don't know if the kids have seen this. In
you
a
were
long
like, we're not
time.
twilighting. We're
Yeah.
going old school.
And I really felt like maybe kids hadn't even seen practical werewolves and like that. Like,
Yeah, that's
I
true.
just
It's
don't
a
know
whole
if they've seen it
generation.
in a long time
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
at all. And so I thought that felt different.
Yeah.
So that's why we went there.
And the girls in the film, tell us about them because they were
Oh,
both
man.
really strong.
Katrina Law and Ilfinish
Yeah.
were fantastic. Katrina Law is on NCIS and she does some really great work. But she was really early on was like, do I get to battle with Frank? And that was one of her questions. And I was like, of course. Like this is not a movie where you're running around with your screaming the whole movie, right? Like
Yeah.
this is you're there with Frank. You're gonna be dealing with it with Frank, and then Ilfinish at home trying to hold it down at home
Yeah.
for her kid and her. So we were really trying to play into that because not a lot of my movies get strong female presence is because I'm dealing with more action guys in my films, and that's just how it
Right.
was. And so for me to have really strong female presence in my film was really important. And
Yeah.
Right.
really trying to push for that, even when the early writing stages was like, how do we make sure that these characters feel just as big and as strong as Frank?
They did.
And so that
Yeah.
was important for us. And so, she had a lot of, they were just so great. They had a
And
lot
Lou
of fun.
Diamond Phillips.
Oh, Lou Diamond Phillips.
Okay,
is the
come
man.
on. Like, okay,
He's the
I've
shit.
never seen Lou Diamond Phillips in a movie like this. And let me just say, it's really hard when you're doing that technical kind of dialogue
Right.
to make it sound organic and real.
It's a lot
Is
of
he-
exposition.
interesting.
a lot of
It's
exposition.
Yeah.
He's like and explaining things for the audience. He's a CDC guy.
Yeah,
Was
he's
that-
the CDC
Yeah.
guy. He's totally our
I totally
Wayland
bought
industry
him.
guy. Like,
Yeah.
he's he was so cool. I mean, me and him were talking Young Guns probably more than anything, but like he's just such a great guy and like so interesting.
He was so weighty in that role
Yeah,
too.
he's
like
got
he's
a
really
he's got a
grown up.
gravitas to
The
him.
other thing I noticed, which was like, I know this seems silly because it felt natural to the story, but I notice it as, and I think we do like as women in the industry, it was so inclusive.
Right.
Like that, I was like, wow, this cast is like authentically diverse in a like really great way. Like, and it showcased so many different types of women, and I was actually like really impressed with that. I know not everybody notices that, but I notice it.
Yeah,
you know, and I think a lot of other communities notice it too when you lead with it.
Yeah, I mean, we just wanted to represent as many people as we possibly could, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I think that is important when you're dealing with any movie, really, but like
It
specifically,
didn't feel like inauthentic, like you were checking a box.
We weren't
It
doing that
felt
at all.
like-
We were really just trying to get the best people for
Everybody
the
was
job.
really good.
But
Yeah.
but the people that kept coming in were so great that it just matched, and
Yeah.
it felt like it was cohesive. Even talent on screen together, they were cohesive,
Yeah.
like chemistry. And you know what? Like I find that most of my sets run a way where they sort of bleed into the movie, and I think that's just sort of a passion way where all the films are so much fun.
Yeah.
Like I try to have as much fun as possible on the
Yeah.
movie, and I try to keep everybody laughing. Or I'm the guy skating over there. They're like, what is Steven doing over there? You know,
Do
like
you
so,
bring
like-
your board to set?
Yeah.
Have you
Like,
ever used it as a dolly?
no, but but for sure, my first films for sure.
Yeah.
Now they won't let me do that. Now they're like, Steven, get off the camera. You know what I mean?
that-
Like,
What do you
I try
ride?
to
What
grab
kind of board do you
anything.
ride?
I mean, I'm really longboarding
Yeah.
right now because I'm old. Like, I'm not trying to die. You know what I mean? I have some friends like Gustavo Cooper who can
Right.
really and Travis Stevens can
Yeah.
ride. Like those guys are legit. Like I'm novice. So like I would do it, but I'm just trying to stay on so I can film.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I mean, there's just my sense just try to be fun. And I feel like that sort of bleeds into a movie.
Yeah.
And I think it definitely bled into this, and especially because it's Frank Grillo versus werewolves. And I just tried to lean into that concept. And I
Yeah.
think for me, that was important because I love slow burn werewolf movies. I'll watch them all day long. This is just not that movie.
It kicks
really
off
isn't that.
like
No, it's
from the
fast.
jump.
Yeah.
You can see your action chops from the jump. You're in, and the score is like that too. It's like
It's the
intense.
Newton brothers. I mean,
Yeah.
those guys are fantastic. I mean, they've done all of the horror stuff recently. They're so good.
I have to say, I didn't know what to expect. I went in blind and I
Right.
was just having fun.
Yeah, it's a
You
fun
know?
movie.
It's a total popcorn movie. There's no doubt about it. And I think that's something that my movies in general are. Like, I'm not really trying to do anything I'm not good at. And I think that I'm just really good at making movies that try to be fun, try to not take themselves overly seriously, and just try to throw back 90s action movies.
How was that shooting in Puerto Rico, you said?
Oh, man, it was hot. It was hot.
You said it was in
Oh,
the
and the
summer.
people-
It was in the
You
summer.
have a lot of it in
and
that
people were in the
warehouse.
wolf costumes.
Oh, there's 7-foot guys, and there's seven.
Dane
of them.
DeLegro, our
There-
friend.
7 of them in werewolf suits
Oh, God.
in Puerto
So
Rico.
wait, how many? So you had 7.
We built 7 suits.
Who were the 7? If you can,
So they were all played by the
sorry.
3 guys. So it's Ian White, Ian, what's Ian's last name? It's gonna come, and then Dane, and then 3 other ones were basketball players from Puerto Rico.
Whoa,
And
cool.
so
They just had to be tall.
They just had to
Yeah.
be tall. They
Yeah.
weren't my stunt guy. They only had to be in the suits to kind of move
Move
around.
around, and then
like,
you-
and then
Was
I had
Dane
my-
in the neighbor costume?
Dane was in some of the Neighbor costume. He was in some of other costumes. I won't say yet
Okay.
because they don't want to know who changes
Yeah.
or whatever.
Right.
But he played a lot of them. He played some, and then Ian White, who's in Prometheus. He's the the big guy in Prometheus. He is
Yeah.
Like in the beginning?
In the beginning.
Oh, wow.
And
okay.
so he's a lot. He's some of our main wolves. They all played different. They were just
Yeah.
kind of jumping in and out of who I needed at the time.
Yeah.
But like you gotta getting 7 guys in the suit at once. By the time I got 3 of them in, it was so hot. Like the 4th guy was like, I gotta come out.
you-
He's like, I gotta get out of this suit. It's so hot.
They
Could
didn't
you-
figure out something for air
Well,
conditioning
they have cooling
or
suits.
ice or
They're cooling.
yeah, right?
They're cooling, but it's still unreal.
Yeah.
Like in Puerto Rico, like it's just so
Can you tell the difference between we've had Doug Jones on and like people who play monsters and stuff, and that's such a unique physical thing. Can you tell the difference when you're looking
For sure.
in their movements?
Yeah, I can
What
see
is
it.
like certain things that like you notice?
Like what I notice about Dane is Dane just has a much bigger presence. The
Yeah.
way he spreads his arms, the way he moves his shoulders feel more theatrically big.
Yeah.
And with someone like Ian actually uses his hands a lot.
Oh,
And
interesting.
so his hand movements are more intricate than his shoulder movements.
Oh,
and
cool.
so I would use Ian for specific hand things. And then Dane was more of my big, burly, like he's going to fight you werewolf, right?
Yeah.
We even have a female werewolf in the movie, and that's Ian. And he just gave it a different sort of presence in the movie as well. And so like there's just all these like various little things that actors, especially creature guys do that if you really pay attention to, you can really sort of hone in on what they need to do for scenes.
Yeah.
And then they sort of match up with the animatronic guys, right? Because you got the guys in the animatronics who are doing all the facial movements, the mouth, the saliva, the tongue, everything that's moving in the head.
Yeah.
Because that's another 10 pounds of just animatronics in the head.
Is it still loud in there for them?
It's somewhat. It's not as bad because they're wearing earplugs in there because they have me in their ear.
Yeah.
So so they are listening to really mainly me.
Yeah.
But they have to match with those certain animatronic guys.
And a lot of these guys will prep like with the gear, like
for sure.
for like because it affects the way you move. Like I remember Dane telling me that I think I might have been to his house and saw claws. It was probably for your film.
It probably was.
But they like he was telling me how he had to train for Predator. He had to train his neck to hold the head up. Yeah. So when you're doing like a werewolf, I'm sure you have to train certain parts of your body.
It's very similar. Neck and shoulders is huge because the actual where they were looking out of the suit was actually the neck. So they had to look up to see out. Yeah. So when they're down in wolf form, they can't see anything. So you have to literally go through the scenes heavily because they're doing it by memory. So they can't actually see you or do anything. They're going by. And at one point, we have wolves fighting each other. So it's like they're like literally by memory, blind fighting, right, and trying to figure out how they do those things. And then that's a challenge with werewolf movies is how do you make it look good and making it look good throughout the movie and understanding that. And one thing we just didn't do, like surprisingly enough, one thing we didn't do in this movie is we did not touch the wolves in post. So there is no, however I shot them on camera.
That's amazing.
Is how they were. Other than there's some CGI wolves in the movie.
Well, what about the transformation? So
the transformation is a mix. It's a mix of CG and practical. But if there's a practical wolf on camera, that's the wolf, not enhanced, not touched, not anything. It's just how we shot it. And that's 90% of the wolves on screen. We have 3 or 4 that are really amazing CGI wolves that are doing some things they couldn't do, like running through a downtown, or like we had like 30 of them.
That downtown area was really cool. Did you? Was awesome. That like? Did you create that on a street?
We did. We just turned this little section in Puerto Rico into its own sort of hell.
Yeah, was it like San Juan?
Yeah, it was in San Juan, and it was beautiful. And it was like we shot mostly at night, which was funny. Frank's like, I don't really know if I do nights, and I was like, well, Frank, it's a werewolf movie, bro. So you're in. You're in for a night. And he was like, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense.
Or we only do overnights.
Yeah, it makes sense. He was like, right, makes sense.
When does the movie come out?
December 6th. And so crazy enough, it's getting a wide theatrical release.
Yeah, how many theaters is that?
So it's going to be 2,000 screens.
That's amazing.
So like they really went all in on the movie. Like that was something that I was ecstatic about because I've had theatrical releases, but they're the 20 cities, like the smaller.
Is this the biggest?
This is the biggest theatrical. This is the biggest theatrical release I've had. So to say I'm ecstatic. Silent Night was probably like 500.
Oh,
right. Wow. So it had its own thing. But like 2,000 is like for an indie filmmaker that's sort of been grinding.
I did Your Next, and we had 2,000 for Your Next. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's kind of wild.
Yeah. It's interesting. Like on our show, we end up, because we're such nerds, we end up talking technical now a lot. But the initial premise of our show was about our nightmares and fears.
Right.
And a recurring nightmare I had as a kid was a werewolf nightmare. Always that I was being chased by one. And recently, I've been like followed by coyotes like pretty regularly. I'm newer to LA, and it freaks me out. So I have to say, like, I didn't expect it. But when I was starting to watch your movie, I started to feel a little bit of anxiety, like when is the wolf coming?
Right.
And I think it's because I haven't watched a werewolf creature feature in a while, and I think it like has this like gut like thing,
it's kind of visceral.
It is. It was a very anxious feeling movie for sure.
Yeah, that was sort of something we leaned into again too. Was like, how do we just make it visceral? How do we feel like it's coming?
I watched it at home on my tablet, but I can't wait to see what people are going to say when they see it in a theater.
I saw it in a theater. I've seen it twice in a theater. I saw it just recently for the first time with proper sound mix and everything like that at Deluxe, and it was fucking awesome. Yeah, it was like I was just like, wow, like when you're just sitting there for the first time, you can feel everything and you can hear everything. You're just it's just one of those things you just can't explain. It's just another level of kind of a feeling. Like I've had movies come out. I've done a lot of movies. I've had them come out. And it's like great when I see them on video, it's awesome, or on VOD, it's great. But like, to be able to maybe go experience it with audience goers is something that I'm really looking forward to.
Oh, super cool.
What do you want to do next after this? Do you have something in the works or?
Yeah, I mean,
You have a lot of things in the works.
I have kind of a lot of things. I'm one of those people that has like, I throw a lot of shit at the wall.
Yeah.
Right. And whatever sticks is what I'm doing. Like, because I said, like, I just like making movies.
Are you pitching on Bad Boys 5?
I wish.
Like, what's
that would
happening?
be awesome.
Right?
Let's go. Bad Boys with Werewolves. I would do that. Like,
get it
so,
going.
I mean, they do want to do another one of these.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they want to do another Werewolves. So we're trying to figure that out. Frank really wants to do another one.
Okay, I have a script for you.
Yes, they want it.
I have a script. I'm going to send it to you.
Okay. I'm telling you, I've been trying to make werewolves for a long time.
Yeah.
Werewolf movie.
Oh yeah,
So-
who wrote this?
So it's Matthew Kennedy, and Matthew Kennedy wrote a really fantastic script. And we didn't get to do everything he wrote because we just didn't have the time.
Right.
And a lot of that was world building, which I wanted to do more of, which I will do next. But this movie just sort of drops you into it, and you just kind of roll. So I think that the next one we would try to do a little bit more world building and really get into like some of the parameters.
What happened like year 1 or something?
Yeah, year 1, and just sort of like what's the social status of now? Because I mean, I can say this, but like if you really watch the movie, and is like we did little subtle things we never talk about, which is people having scars on them, right? And that's because ideally people from year 1 who had turned have scars when they turn back. So is that like a scarlet letter that you could say?
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Like, did that guy eat my kid last year?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
what is that? What does that?
And I mean,
happen?
if that's the route you go, that's very similar to The Purge itself.
Yeah.
The first Purge movie
Right.
is very much self-contained, and it was like, I remember it was kind of a disappointment for a lot of people because they heard the premise, and then the movie was more of like a bottle
Right.
episode, like home invasion film, and then it was the sequels that built out like, how does this affect things at large, the
Yeah.
socio-political.
Yeah.
Well, that's something we learned from too, because me and Frank talked about it. And he was like, well, we can't just make this movie contained. And I was
Yeah.
like, nah, we're going to go balls to the wall with this movie. Like, and I think going bigger in the next one is something we want to do. But I think this movie still feels pretty big. Like, it still feels like we're everywhere. We're not
Yeah.
just in one spot. So I'm hoping the audience really gravitates to that. And
Did
has
you have
fun
any
with it.
company moves for this one or
No,
not?
this one.
I don't do that.
This was
we-
Puerto
this
Rico.
was Puerto
just all
Rico
around.
proper.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
think
we-
you'd do it on the next?
I mean, I guess if there's enough time, it just feels like I just don't like. I
don't
really
wanna
don't
waste the
like
time.
it.
Yeah.
I just
I hear
don't
you
like
on
it.
that.
I
I
just
think
don't.
that's a good
I like to
idea.
keep everybody close knit and kind of tight, and like making people drive out. We got to get another hotel. We got to do this. We got to
And
do
it
that.
cuts into your
It cuts
time,
into
for
time.
sure. Yeah.
It cuts into my hangout time with everybody, like which I like, and
Yeah.
kind of try to push.
To have everybody bond.
Yeah, it's a huge bonding thing. And
Yeah.
so, especially if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you're trying to make something you need everyone to be on board for, like bonding is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you scared of?
Oh,
Let's
man.
ask you
I
that.
know you've like lived in your car. You're kind of like this badass like action guy. What freaks you out?
You know what freaks me out is like, is it triphobia, where you're scared of holes?
Trypophobia, I think.
Trypophobia.
Yeah,
trypophobia.
The little
tiny
little
holes,
tiny
yeah.
Oh, I don't like
holes,
that either.
Little
No,
tiny
no, no.
sponges, like
Yeah.
honeycombs.
It's
Trypophobia.
like an empty corn on the cob,
I
maybe.
can't do it.
You know?
I
Yeah.
can't
You don't
look at
like
it.
it's just like
I'm deathly
Lampreys?
terrified. Yes,
Lampreys kind of scare you.
Lampreys.
it freaks me out.
Yeah.
I don't like
What are
it.
lampreys?
The little, they're like eels, but a bunch of teeth.
Oh
Yeah.
no,
Like
no.
even making my kid mac and cheese and they're all standing up and looking at. I just don't like
I'm the
any
same
of
way.
it.
I
don't
hate
like
that.
it.
I hate
it
that.
freaks me
you know
out.
what?
have
I've
sensory
never
issues.
heard of this.
Yeah,
This is
trypophobia.
really-
Trypophobia.
Yeah.
It's debilitating. Like if I'm in it,
mold?
yeah, oh no.
Oh yeah,
Anything that looks like eyeballs, like I just can't deal.
Oh my god, that got me. I watched The Substance recently, and I'm like, the eyes.
I need to
oh
watch
my
it.
god,
I
it was
need to
so
see it.
good,
It's
but
really
like
good. I need to see it.
terrifying. Oh my god, you'll love.
Yeah,
You'll
I need
love.
to see it.
Like also, they do have a really cool fight sequence in it. Spoilers, but like it's cool.
Well, I love her work, and
Yeah,
so like I
it's
want to
cool.
see it.
But they do the eyes. For fair warning.
There's
Like
some
it's
It just
there's
gets
some
me.
eye stuff. Oh
It's
no.
the
The
worst.
eyes, yeah, that eye thing.
That's
you ever seen
trypophobia.
Seed of
That's on the
Chucky?
poster too.
Yes.
It's like 3 eyes in one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Seed of Chucky
Yes.
when John Waters, his face
When it
like
looks all bubbly.
yeah, when it's all bubbly.
I
I
hate-
always clock that as like that's got to.
They also, James Gunn did it really well in Slither as well. Like there's
yeah,
a sequence in
Slither's
Slither, like when he's all
nasty.
half done, like Michael Rooker.
Michael
Like I
Rooker,
just
yeah.
couldn't deal.
A lot
like,
of it's
oh my
the
god,
sound that goes with it too. The like,
right?
I
It's just
hate
something about that I can't take.
it. And then what keeps you going?
What's your night like?
That's your nightlight.
That's easy. My kids,
Yeah.
and my wife, and them. They've been there since day one.
And where'd you meet your wife?
So I met her. Funny enough, I met her on Facebook. So like I met her in August 13th, 2009. We got married in December of 2009, and we had my first kid August 12th of 2010.
Whoa.
So like we were just
How'd you
like
meet on Facebook?
speed
How'd you
run
meet
that
on
whole
Facebook?
thing.
so she was like, we were random friends, and like she was like, saying she had one of her friends owned a taco stand or something, and she was like, I'm gonna go get tacos. And I might have been the creep that was like, oh, I like tacos.
Yeah.
And like, so she was like, oh my God, okay, whatever. And then we ended up meeting, and our first date was a Dodger game. And she was like, what else are we gonna? And I was like, do you play Halo? And she was like, yeah, I play Halo. And she came over. She doesn't play Halo. She was a badass at Halo. And ripped me apart.
2009, that would have been Halo 3?
This Halo 3.
Okay.
Yeah, so we were jamming on Halo 3.
You're like, this is my dream woman. She can kick my ass in video games.
She hasn't left since that day because
she's still playing Halo.
We're still playing. Well, we do Fortnite Fridays, so it's like me and my kids and my wife. We play Fortnite.
All
on
four
Fridays.
of you together?
Yeah, we all play.
That's
so
great.
my son's on his PS5. My daughter's in her room on her Switch, and we're in the living room on our
It's
Switches.
cross-platform
And we're
too,
all
so-
playing cross-platform.
Yeah,
so we're all playing it.
I love that.
So yeah, for real, like they are sort of my champions. Like they've been there since day one. They love going on these things, like adventure wise. They were all in Puerto Rico for 2 months with me making this. In fact, my daughter's in the movie. She's a girl in the movie. She's half wolf in the movie.
Oh, which one is
She battles Frank Grillo in like a bodega. And like she's in like a long nightgown.
Okay.
And she's barely in the trailer. She's like so stoked she made the trailer. She's barely in the trailer. And yeah, if you go back, look for her because she's kind of like a teen wolf. She's like
Yeah, I
half
remember
and
that.
half.
Yeah.
That's the
And
spinoff. She gets her own
she
TV
gets
series,
her own
MTV.
series.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my son's also in the movie. He's like he's a little kid waving them down to come into the underground towards the end of the movie. Like so,
Is your wife in it? at all,
she is
or-
not. She was like, no
She's
way,
still
I'm not
playing
doing
Halo.
it. Yeah, she probably
Still
was
playing
at
Noobs,
home,
dude.
like just playing.
What were your kids doing during school time though?
So we
'Cause
filmed in the summer, so it was lucky.
So
it was
2
June.
months in
It
the
was
summer?
it was May, June, and July that we were there.
Okay.
And so they got there at the end of May
What a
and June
fun,
and July.
like, summer camp.
Oh my god, they had so much
Summer
fun.
camp with
They had a
So,
blast.
so this movie's coming out in December, and that'll also be like what, a week later is your 15-year anniversary.
A week later will be 15 years. Yeah,
Nice. That'll
15
be
years
such
of
a fun-
meeting just
What a
passed.
fun, like,
Yeah,
celebration.
15 years is
You guys should
crazy.
get married again in Werewolf.
We should because we literally like we were like, what we want to get married. And she's like, let's just go to Vegas. And I go, oh my god, I love you.
Is that what
So
you
we just went to
Very
Vegas.
Vegas. I got married in Vegas.
Oh, nice.
So we, so we did that.
Like a little chapel, or
Yeah, with Elvis.
Elvis?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. We got married at Mandalay Bay, and we had
nice.
our reception at the Four Seasons. We did splurge for
I
that.
mean, this is Barbara Crampton.
Yeah,
Yeah, you
Come
had
on here.
proper.
She is very famous.
and then we had impersonators as our entertainment.
Right.
We had the Brat Pack for our entertainment.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we just drove down.
Yeah.
We were just like one day we were like, it was literally December 30th, and we were like, let's just go.
Yeah.
And we just did it, and we just got married. That was it. And then
that's
so,
cool.
yeah, we've been just doing it ever since.
so
So
nice.
Do you go
it's
back
been
to
fun.
Vegas often?
We don't really go back to Vegas. It's
No?
not really our thing.
Oh,
Like, but we have. It's not like we're not all the time there.
My wife
But
and I love Vegas.
yeah, I know.
Vegas too.
Like her
Yeah.
uncle loves
Yeah.
Vegas. He's always trying to get me. He's a Raider guy, so we're almost always going. He likes to go down. But yeah, I mean, I think that's easy. That's an easy answer for me for sure.
Well, we're all excited for the movie to come out, and this has been a great conversation.
Yeah,
thanks for
so
having me.
awesome. This
Thank
is
you.
the first
Wonderful
real action
guest.
person
Yeah.
we've had on. So
Oh, I
thank you.
appreciate
This
it.
was so
Thank
cool.
you so much for being with us.
Cool for me. I love it.
And people can find you on social media a little bit, right?
They can find me on Instagram or Twitter X, whatever that is, at Stephen C. Miller.
and why are you Stephen C. Miller?
I wanted to ask that.
Yeah.
So-
He's
Because there's
James
another
A.
Stephen
Janisse.
Miller.
So
Well,
so I didn't know there'd be another
No.
Stephen Miller.
No.
That happened later. But Stephen, I for some reason Stephen Miller just felt boring, and I don't know why C made it exciting. But I was always like, maybe I should come up with a different name at one
What-
point.
Why
Like,
are you James A. Janisse?
I started that in middle school. I was signing my papers.
but
James
it
H.
but it really was.
Nice.
It was because my friend when I
you
was
have a
in
middle
middle
name,
school,
right?
Yeah.
in middle school he was drawing comics, and I was sort of like trying to color in the comics for him.
So have you also been doing it
I
since
was
middle
been
school?
doing it since middle school. Stephen
Yeah.
C. That's what he put on the comic, and so I was like, all right, that just sounds fine.
Exactly. It feels
fine.
better.
Yeah.
It feels bigger to have it.
Maybe,
in
and I
there.
was like, it feels more.
A little edgier.
Should I
Yeah.
start?
Also, my dad is James Janisse, so
Okay, I'm going to change
Yeah.
my name. Barbara F. Crampton.
Wait,
What's
my
F?
middle name. I have a
Francis?
middle name.
Francis.
Yeah.
I nailed it.
Francis
Francis.
Crampton.
Yeah, but that sounds good.
I'm Catherine
What's your middle name?
Corcoran.
Clark.
Oh, I'm sorry. What's yours?
Catherine E. Corcoran.
Eleanor.
E.
Eleanor. Elizabeth.
Ellen.
Elizabeth.
Ellen?
Okay.
2 queens and grandmother on each side. It's very specific.
Oh,
And you said
Elizabeth?
Clark.
Mine's Clark.
Yeah.
My
Okay.
dad was
Clark.
a Superman fan.
And you're
Anthony.
Anthony.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Italian name, yeah.
Now we all know our middle names. We feel even closer to everybody.
Wow.
This is a bonding experience.
Do you guys have confirmation names? Are you anyone?
I chose St. Anthony.
Yeah.
So you're Anthony?
No, they said the redundancy doesn't happen. It just stays the one word.
Oh, that's what the Pope told you this?
He did. I called him and he was like, hey.
He was like, hey, I have an appeal crisis.
No, that's too confusing.
I forget what my confirmation name is.
Oh, no.
I think I blocked it out.
I was a little traumatic.
I mean, I'm actually sitting here thinking, why did I forget that? I don't
Were you
remember.
Catholic?
No.
Okay.
I didn't have that.
My whole
I'm
people raised
Sicilian.
Catholic.
Yeah, I know. I'm just like, I
So
get
that's
it.
like pretty common. We were just, all right, we got to wrap this up. But Jenna and I were just in Spain, and Jenna Canal is one of my best friends, an actress, and we were just in Spain together. And so we were looking at the churches. Jenna's Jewish. And so we went to a Catholic church, and she was like, why is Jesus anorexic? And I was like,
Oh my God.
because he's like, I had to explain the whole thing. And then
tortured
the other
him.
thing that we learned while we were in Spain is that the Lord charges admission. You can't just go into these churches.
Oh.
It is like there's a fee.
You have
So
to pay.
the Lord charges admission. Things to know.
You have to pay for your own accountability. Yeah.
That's
To
what
pay
the
for the
Catholics
guilt,
say.
you have to pay for the
Because if
guilt.
you don't pay before, you're going to pay after.
So that's
We also have to pay for like all the other sins, the original sin.
the original sin.
That's in there too.
Gotta
You
pay for that. You weren't even involved in that,
No.
but we're still paying. Anyway,
God.
on that note,
Yeah. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
And the movie's coming out December
6th.
December 6th. Go
see it.
watch Werewolves
Bye.
in theaters wherever you are.
that's true. 2,000 screens.
Wow.
Cool. Amazing. Yay!
Thank you.
That was great.
Yeah.
That was great.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Still sitting there.
We have to do a couple photos and a little video.
I'm gonna get a promo real quick into this camera.
Okie dokie.
If you could just say this.
Take them away. My teeth are
Okay.
gonna hurt so bad.
Let's see. All right.